Hi, Mike here from AutoGuide, and today I want to talk about Subaru. The brand always seems to find a niche. 20 years ago, nearly everything the manufacturer make had a little bit of rally car baked into it. But times have changed and so have consumers' tastes, and sadly, it's SUVs and crossovers that are all the rage right now. Luckily, Subaru has found a new niche with the Wilderness lineup of vehicles. For those unfamiliar with the name, Wilderness is what Subaru is calling its new lineup of more off-road focused vehicles. So far, there's already a Forester Wilderness and an Outback Wilderness, and now a new model joins the lineup, the Crosstrek Wilderness. Subaru is not unique in creating more rugged versions of the SUVs they sell. It's a trend sweeping the industry right now, but unlike a lot of competitors, Subaru is doing more than just slapping on some badges and knobby tires. For starters, many of the dimensions of the Wilderness are different than the regular Crosstrek. The wheelbase is a bit shorter, the track is a little narrower, the vehicle obviously sits higher thanks to the increased ground clearance, and overall the width is increased because of that bigger, more unique cladding all around. While on the topic of the exterior, the bumpers front and rear are unique, with copper painted covers over the recovery points, and there's more copper accents found on places like the roof rails, which I'm a little torn if I like or not. Up front, there's a new front grille and these cool LED fog lights that are fully unique for the model. The 17-inch wheels are all black, and I like the design, which is a refreshing change from the usual two-tone design that's kind of getting tired on other Crosstrek models. And of course, we can't forget the giant Crosstrek written across the front doors. There are 8 Wilderness badges inside and out, there's the matte black hood sticker, and of course, a giant Subaru engraved in the rear bumper in case anybody doesn't know what a Crosstrek is. Inside, the copper theme continues with the stitching and the little trim bit at the bottom of the steering wheel. The two-tone all-weather soft touch seats are quite comfortable, and they feature, of course, Wilderness badges embossed into the headrest. There are more Wilderness badges on the floor mat, and actually, when you turn the car on, another one shows up in the gauge cluster, so I guess there's really 9 Wilderness badges in the vehicle. As far as the rest of the interior goes, not much has really changed in the Crosstrek, and I'd say that's a good thing. This is one of the more spacious, usable interiors in the segment, so it's nice none of that is lost during the wildernessification of the vehicle. The step-in height is a bit higher, of course, because the whole vehicle is a little higher. This seems like a good place to transition to the mechanics of the Crosstrek Wilderness. As I've mentioned a few times, ground clearance is up over half an inch for a total of 9.3 inches or 220 millimeters. This added height, along with those unique bumpers, increase approach, departure, and breakover angles. Despite the added height, the Wilderness suspension layout is very similar to regular Crosstreks, with McPherson struts up front and the double wishbone setup in the rear. Officially, Subaru does claim it has off-road tuning, but there isn't too much different mechanically. More than just ride height, there are more goodies to improve the off-road capability, like the Yokohama Geolandar all-terrain tires and the dual mode X mode. There's also a skid plate up front, but it's pretty narrow and pretty thin and not really going to protect much at all. Where things really haven't changed is with the engine and transmission. The Wilderness uses the same 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, making the same 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque as found in other higher trims of the Crosstrek. The only transmission available is a CVT, but the Wilderness does add an oil cooler to help keep it cool during off-roading. I really wish there was a turbo option for the Wilderness, as this would be the perfect vehicle to put one in, but of course pricing would then make it pretty astronomical and put it out of the segment. With a higher ride height, the heaviest curb weight, and those knobby all-terrain tires, the Wilderness is the thirstiest Crosstrek model. It's rated at 25 miles per gallon in the city and 29 on the highway. Compared to the limited trim, that's an increase of 1 mile per gallon city and 4 on the highway. For our Canadian viewers, that's a fuel economy rating of 9.4 liters per 100 kilometers city and 8.1 liters per 100 kilometers highway. A nice side effect of the Crosstrek going all Wilderness is towing capacity. This little SUV is officially rated to tow 3,500 pounds or 1,588 kilograms if you're into the metric system. Sadly though, we didn't get to test towing, but I'm sure owners will give it a shot. Okay, let's talk about driving now. So on the road, the Wilderness drives a lot like the regular Crosstrek. The ride quality, the handling, the acceleration, they're all very similar as should be expected. The only real differences we do notice is the all-terrain tires are of course a little bit louder and produce a bit of a hum, And there's something with the drivetrain that makes a little bit of a very faint whistle when accelerating. When it comes to stopping or quick turning maneuvers, the extra ride height isn't noticeable. What's more important though is how the Wilderness behaves off-road. After all, that's what it's supposed to excel at. After taking it on some level 3 trails, I will say I'm impressed with it. It doesn't absorb the rocks and the bumps and the potholes like, say, a Wrangler or a Land Rover with an air suspension will, because it is still a crossover. But it's still pretty impressive how it handles these conditions, considering it drives so much like a regular Crosstrek on the road. What I did notice the most though is that extra ground clearance and the approach angle up front and the departure angle in the back. There were some ruts and rocks and trees that I drove over that I was fully expecting I was going to bottom out or scrape some of the underbelly, and I just went over like it wasn't there. The X mode made sure that all 4 wheels were getting traction on some pretty gnarly ascents, and when going downhill, the hill descent control did exactly what it's supposed to. Is this ready to go up Moab? Maybe not, but for what it's intended to be able to give you a little more capability in your Crosstrek, it does the job. In the United States, the 2024 Crosstrek Wilderness starts at a price of $33,540, including destination charges. Add in the Harman Kardon sound system, power driver seat, and moonroof package, and the price bumps up to $35,810. In Canada, the Wilderness only comes one way, which is fully loaded at a price of $40,190, once again including destination charges. So the Crosstrek Wilderness is a lot like the brand's other Wilderness models in that it's not a full-blown hardcore off-road vehicle, but it does offer a lot more capability on trails and in the snow and in the mud, while still retaining all the qualities that we like about the Crosstrek. It is a little more pricey, and the styling may not be for everyone, but if this is the kind of package you want, I think you'll be really happy with the new Crosstrek Wilderness.